This is the Geometry Mid-Unit Quest check for Unit 1. This is a review for the Mid-Unit Quest, and for this video I'm going to look at just 1A, just this one problem. A lot of directions here, and what we're going to do is we're going to read through each sentence and look at what each sentence is asking us to do on this graph. It says, on the grid below, graph, label, and connect the points R, S, T, and U. To graph them now, we're just going to go ahead with the old school Algebra 1 graphing. R is at 4, -3. That's 4, -3. Now, a lot of people will just go ahead and graph the points right away. But remember, it said to label these points. By label, they mean use these letters as soon as you graph them. You want it, and this becomes very important later on. Point S is at 1, -3. There's S. T is at 1 and 1. There's T, and then the last one, U, is at 4 and 1. There's U. And it asks us to connect them, so I'm going to go ahead and connect those 4 points with our straight lines, as straight as I can make them. And there's my rectangle. So I've graphed the points, I've labeled them, and I connected them. Then reflect the rectangle. As soon as I see reflect, remember that reflect means to flip. We're going to do the mirror image. Across the line x equals 1. This is the hard part. This is really important right here. The line x equals 1 is not on this graph, so we have to actually graph it. And remember that when the x is alone, if it's x by itself, x equals some number, then that's a vertical line that's going to go up and down. If it's y by itself, the line is going to go horizontally. Now with x equals 1, we're looking for positive 1, which is right here on the x-axis. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a vertical line up and down through that point. Now they asked us to reflect this rectangle over this line. So what's going to happen is we're going to flip this rectangle backwards over here. Now many of you have been using tracing paper, which is a wonderful thing. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to trace the rectangle. And basically, I'm going to trace everything I've drawn. I'm going to trace the rectangle. I'm even going to put the letters here, S, R, U, and T. And I'm going to trace that dashed line. Now, some of you are pretty good with these visualizing, seeing in your head what's going to happen. But the tracing paper is just here to help in case you're having trouble with that. So now remember that the reflection was a flip. So we're going to flip this piece of paper. But the reason I drew that dashed line is when we flip it, we want the dashed line on the tracing paper to match up on this line x equals 1. So when I do that, this is a kind of a preview for where that rectangle is going to end up. So we'll look at where this backwards U is. Now it's left 2 and up 1. This R is on this corner down here. And notice that S and T didn't go anywhere at all. They just stayed put. So when I graph U, the new U will be left 2 and up 1. And since that's the new version of U, that's going to be U prime. Remember that these little kind of apostrophe symbols they look like are actually prime symbols, meaning that they've been changed once. So there's U prime. R prime would be directly right over here. S and T didn't go anywhere, but so that single point is going to represent both S and S prime. This one's going to represent both T and T prime. Now to finish the reflection, I just have to complete the drawing. And there's my reflected rectangle. So I had my original RSTU here. It reflected over the line. There's my new RSTU with all the primes. R prime, S prime, T prime, U prime. The last thing they're asking us to do is list the coordinates below. So we're looking for the new points and where they are on the graph. If we start with R prime, there's R prime. The new coordinates now are going left twice, going to -2, going down 3 units. So our coordinates will be -2, -3. The S and T primes are pretty easy because they didn't go anywhere. So if we go back to the original problem, S was 1, -3, and T was at 1 and 1. So those stayed the same. And then U prime is now left 2 and up 1, -2, +1. And 1A is now done.